Raph,
James.
have you had a chance to go through Pope Leo's encyclical against artificial intelligence? As a God-fearing Catholic boy.
The 14,000 word autistic rant. Diatribe.
Exactly. What if they did a big hype about Pope Leo speaking about AI, and then when it was released, it was just like his prompt engineering tips?
Yeah, his agents. That's great. It's a GitHub repo.
He's like now Claude Opus 4.7, unlike previous versions, really requires you have a clear idea in your mind of what you want out of the output. So the instructions need to be very structured and very clear. But if you are very clear, it can be an extremely powerful tool.
I haven't read it. Is that what I assume that's what it is?
That's literally what it is. Yeah, exactly.
I will say the Pope. I mean, I haven't read it. I still haven't read the 14,000 words. Is it 14,000 words? Is this correct?
It's like 100 and something pages. I haven't actually read it yet. I've only read the excerpts that have been online. It's what you would expect, He's concerned.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time that I'm a little bit worried about this $1,000 lunch, I will say. Now the Pope's involved.
Actually, does that hit the threshold? 1 billion Catholics?
No.
1 billion Catholics are now against AI, but you're saying that's not a major movement?
We don't know that.
Okay.
I assume there's more nuance to it.
Okay. Well, you get back to me after you've put in the hard yards and read it. But yeah, you're right. The Pope's on my side. The Pope's on my side for a $1,000 lunch. Okay, folks. Today we are talking about something that we're maybe slightly behind the ball on because it was last week, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. So let's get into it. It's the SpaceX IPO, the SpaceX S1 that they released.
We'll also be talking about the enhanced games a little later.
We'll be talking about the enhanced games. That'll be after the paywall. For those for Downrun Premium listeners, they'll hear us sound off about our drug-enhanced Superman. But no, but first we're going to hit the SpaceX IPO. So SpaceX, as you know, is Elon Musk's rocket and satellite and AI and social media company. It's Musk Inc.
Yes.
It's hurtling towards an IPO.
Well, if you don't know, very quickly, yes, it started off as reusable rockets, great, and we're going to colonize Mars, sure thing. Then that bought XAI, Elon Musk's AI company, which bought X, previously known as Twitter. So these are all part of SpaceX.
These are all part of SpaceX. It's now...
That's right. Twitter is part of SpaceX, the rocket
Correct.
company.
And it's hurtling towards an IPO. Different numbers are being thrown around, but the target figure, and you might want to sit down for this one, is $1.7 trillion US. That's what they would like to get out of their IPO. Now, as Raph said, SpaceX is now kind of like the holding company for every Elon Musk business that isn't Tesla. So if you want to break it up, Tesla is electric vehicles plus autonomy. I mean, as I talk about this, it's going to become less and less clear, apart from just like corporate weirdness, why they are split up this way. But yeah, Tesla is electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles and robots and autonomous systems. Robots, Optimus. And then SpaceX is, space exploration, Mars colonization. That's the big crazy stuff. Satellite internet, AI, and social networking. And we'll get into the weird and wonderful ways they're trying to like pitch that as like a cohesive business that they're taking to market, and why there's a whole bunch of other weird stuff underneath the hood as to why they're doing this. But the reason why this is so interesting is that it's looking like it's going to be the first quote unquote AI IPO hitting the market.
Yes.
Right? Obviously, there's a whole bunch of other crap attached to it. As I said, many people listening to this would think SpaceX is all about rockets. Why are you talking about AI? But yes, it does have XAI. But, a lot of people are watching this closely because they're showing how the public market's going to receive AI, how are they going to receive space shit, and also how are they going to receive like that Elon Musk razzle dazzle, which is the sort of the thing.
Yeah, the bamboozle.
That this is the thing that holds it all together. But anyway, but the reason everyone's talking about it, they filed the S1, which is when they throw open the books and say, this is our dirty laundry, this is how our company's structured, here's how much money all the different bits of our company makes. there's nowhere to hide anymore.
Yeah. And the podcasters the world over start rubbing their
Pod-
hands together in a racist meme-like format.
Yeah, podcasters start flipping out. We started freaking the hell out. We actually didn't because
we finally get to see what's going on
under the hood.
We finally get to see what's going on.
So we'll start with the basics. I'll read out some figures. So I did actually go through and read the S1. It's a very long, annoying document. There's lots of pictures in it.
They have to be.
Yes.
Like S1s have to
They
be
are
annoying.
yes.
Like the risk sections are always like so long and they're full of like literally any risk you can even think of, to the point where like they've got to sort this out, because it's like, you know, an asteroid could hit Earth. You know, like there could be revolution and people don't, you know, want to buy anything anymore. You know, the risks are too much. There's too many risks now. And this is lawyers have done this.
The lawyers and the bean counters, yeah.
You should just put the risks that are specific, like just to your business. But they don't want to, right? Because you can bury the ones that are specific to your business amongst all this other crap. Anyway, sorry, that's a massive side tangent. But we got to strip back the risks, folks. Like, we get it. If there's an economic downturn, people are going to buy less. Like, you don't have to put that as a risk.
And the risk section in the SpaceX one is very funny, because apart from all the generic ones, they do have a lot of we may not go to Mars. Like, Mars colonization may not be possible. That's a big thing hanging over the top of it. You know, establishing a moon base potentially may not occur.
Data centers in space might not work.
May not work at all. Anyway, so again, just to remind you, they're aiming for $1.7 trillion IPO.
Biggest ever.
Funnily enough, there is another company that went public at roughly that figure, Saudi Aramco.
I was going to say, the first $1 trillion IPO.
That was also up there. And the reason I bring it up is not just because it's monetarily similar, but also Saudi Aramco. It's a company that's a down around company. We always have our eyes on Aramco.
Oh, yeah. And they have their eyes on us.
I would certainly hope so. Saudi Aramco.
It's our favorite company.
It's a beautiful business model. Here's the business model of Saudi Aramco.
Yeah. As we said, another fine company founded in America.
Exactly. San Francisco, yeah. Saudi Aramco's business model is we sit on one of the richest sources of petrocarbons on the surface of the earth, and we extract those petrocarbons at the lowest possible cost that you can imagine, and we sell it on the market for quite a bit of money, and we capture the spread, right?
Yeah, around 100 a barrel.
It's a cash printing machine, always has been, extremely profitable. You could explain it to a child how that business works, and it went public.
Yeah, the total addressable market is quite easy actually to really understand, like anyone who uses fuel.
Anyone who uses fuel, or anyone who is exposed to a product that uses fuel at some point in its which.
Yeah, exactly, and potentially plastic.
And may I remind you that I would say that's basically every single transaction that occurs on Earth at any given time. Saudi Aramco is
even farm to table. Like, you got to get it from the farm to the table.
Yeah, you know the word in the middle too. That's all fuel, brother. But that went public at around $1.7 trillion, right? For SpaceX, I'm going to spoiler alert immediately, does not make as much money as Saudi Aramco. It does not make remotely close to as much money as Saudi Aramco makes. So,
and that's it. That's revenue. That's before we start talking profit,
exactly,
of which it doesn't make any.
Yes. So the top line figures: 2025, SpaceX made $18.67 billion US, which was up 33% from 2024. Bit of growth. Love to see that.
Yeah.
The 2025 operating result was a $2.5 billion loss.
Mm. Now, where's that money come from, though? The revenue? This is kind of interesting.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So the bulk of the revenue is Starlink. Starlink, which is like the satellite internet product that SpaceX does. You may well know someone that uses it. Uses satellites to serve internet basically anywhere on Earth, nice and fast, and is actually a good product. And you could probably take that public as like Starlink alone is like a IPO-able product and like a really successful business before you even get to the rest of the crap. So there's that. Starlink, which made actually a $4.4 billion operating income in 2025. Again, this is not like, I mean, $4.4 billion is a lot of money, but it's not like, this does not put you up with the other companies that are in the $1 trillion club.
No. Well, Google's spending $180 billion on data centers.
Yeah.
You know, Amazon spending $200 billion on capex. This is well before we get to profit. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, $4 billion, as you said, is great. Again, would love to have a little $4 billion.
I'd love to be making that much, right?
Revenue business.
100%. So good on them. Good on you, Elon.
But
does that get you up to there?
But yes, it doesn't put you in the trilly club.
Okay. Thus concludes us talking about the bits of SpaceX that are profitable. That's the only part. That's the only part of the company that is making money currently. Now the other bit is like so the space part. Their launch business, I believe, is still does quite well, but that gets balanced out by the fact that they're spending shitloads of money on Starship.
But it is also worth noting, so the satellites, obviously SpaceX started it, reusable rockets make it cheap to put things in space, such as satellites.
Yep.
It's important to note that like the satellite internet, that is Starlink, part of the business, the reason that can exist, it kind of started as like, whenever we send a rocket up, you know, a bunch of people want to put something in space, and maybe satellites, and maybe scientists doing whatever they want to do up there, other commercial stuff. If they had excess capacity, they would use it to pump a tiny, cheap Starlink satellite up there. And that was kind of like part of the arbitrage. It's like, well, we've always got this excess capacity in our rockets, so we'll use it for our own now satellite internet business. So you kind of can't have one without the other, right? Like Starlink on its own, a satellite internet business, couldn't exist because it'd be too expensive to send the satellites up into space. So it kind of needed to be attached to the SpaceX side of things.
Yep. But it's worth remembering that, like, the satellite part of the business, the reusable rockets, which, as you say, was what SpaceX began as, that used to be the whole story of the company. Like, we will make it really cheap to launch stuff into space. And basically, now throughout the S1, they kind of sell the rockets, like, as you were just saying, as it's the enabling layer for all the other stuff we do. It's the enabling layer for Starlink. It's the enabling layer for, again, as we'll talk about, orbital data centers, which is not a real thing yet, but it's something they suggest will be. And one of the reasons they're going for such a big IPO price. And it does seem like they basically, if they wanted, the launch business could probably be a profitable entity, but they're sort of sacrificing it for the Starship build out to do all this like Mars shit, essentially, like these bigger space mission.
Yeah.
So that's why that unit of the business is not profitable. But then you get to, well, I guess we'll mention Twitter. X is kind of, it's folded in with AI and XAI. But what the S1 revealed is that the actual money that Twitter/X made after the acquisition, like the arse just fell out of it, and that was it. It just became a complete non-entity that was burning cash. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. When the first thing that happened was like, he got rid of blue checks, and like people were like posting like Eli Lilly with a blue tick or whatever, being like, we're releasing all our patents.
Yeah.
Whatnot. Yes. Would you believe that scared off the advertisers? Oh, and was like, also Nazis are good now.
Yeah, exactly.
The advertisers left, and it seems like they largely haven't come back.
And keeping in mind, as we've said many times on this podcast, Twitter wasn't an amazing business before Elon Musk bought it.
No, it was a shithouse business anyway.
It was, a great platform, great culture, funny.
Yeah, funny.
But in terms of like turning that into like a sustainable ad business, they had never really cracked that nut.
Well, I mean, someone was remarking on this, like, obviously the first thing he did with Twitter, other than destroy, like get rid of the blue checks and like free speech, which, basically allow like anyone to say like racism. They were just like, it's a racist platform now, which is fine. Well, it's not fine. I mean, it is what it is. I respect everyone's opinion equally. Anyway, when he did that, he also obviously fired like famously like 80% of the workforce or whatever. As people are kind of remarking, I've heard it remarked now, it's like, had he just come in and just fired like 80% of the workforce and not done any of the other crazy shit, it actually would be like, and it was still, obviously it got janky for a while or whatever, but look, largely it survived. If he'd just done that, he probably would have turned it into like a profitable social media company. But he had to do the other stuff, so like destroy revenue.
He had bigger dreams.
He
had bigger dreams. Turn it into
the everything app.
The everything app.
Is there any mention in the S1 about it becoming the everything app?
Not in a big way. No, they've kind of, and I'll talk about this. They've essentially rethought what X and XAI are for. Obviously, it's now an AI story, and the idea of it becoming the payments / content / news / whatever is not really how they're positioning it. which, fair enough. But as we know, X got rolled into XAI, which is Elon Musk's little spite AI company after all the OpenAI stuff kicked off. But yeah, so the AI segment lost $6.36 billion from operations in 2025. That's up from a $1.5 billion loss in 2024. What they now sell it as is this weird, this is all through the S1, this weird kind of like, this is not just a holding company for all of Elon Musk's weird shit he's picked up over the years. This is like a machine. This is a flywheel that we've got here. All these little pieces here. We build cheap space launch capacity with SpaceX. Starlink handles like orbital infrastructure and global distribution. XAI does compute, provides like the grunt for compute and data. And X is also like a real-time distribution and data layer. And then Starship is like the key to the future, to interplanetary colonization and all the rest of it. So it's this idea of like, we are creating like this globe-spanning satellite compute network that is going to power essentially the entire future AI economy. That's kind of like the sell.
Well, so this is important. Yeah, that is the sell, because they have like TAM numbers, basically. They have like, we are worth a $1.7 trillion valuation. Yes, obviously we don't make any money now, which is, by the way, like, there's plenty of businesses, Amazon famously, there's plenty of businesses that like don't make a profit that are worth a lot, or, because they obviously could flick the switch at any moment. Or, that are growth businesses, basically. It's like, you're not buying us for dividends right now. You're buying us because future dividends. Like, in the future, we'll take market share and we'll be able to flick the switch at any one point. So therefore, we justify that valuation. So this isn't like they don't make profit. How could they be worth that much? But what it is based on, is that future story, that future narrative. And that future narrative in this case is like, basically that we will be the AI company. We will be the data center company, and the, I guess, space colonization, like whatever, question mark, profit. I don't really understand that side of it. But point being, the largest total addressable market, the largest number that they have in there regarding like why this business is worth anything is enterprise AI, right? It's like they project the total addressable market of, i.e. people that they can sell to at like $25 trillion.
Yeah, absolutely. And the kind of the argument that runs through it is that, the reason that it was folded into SpaceX, if you look at it completely cynically, is that SpaceX was already very hyped. It has some competitors.
It seems like a decent business.
It seems like a good bit. Like, exactly. It seemed like a decent business. Extremely hard. The moat is enormous. Who are their competitors? The competitors, well, I was about to say NASA, but that's not really a competitor. That's a customer. But, you've got like Blue Origin.
I saw NASA HQ, by the way, last week.
Oh, yeah?
It looks sick. It looks really sick.
Nice.
I've got to hand it to him. If you drive past it, you're like, that looks sick.
Like what? NASA HQ where?
In the valley, basically.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. Sure.
On the way to Monterey. Between Palo Alto and Monterey, I think. I can't remember.
Nailed the HQ game. I respect that.
Ames. This is what I saw. This is what I drove past. The Ames Research Center.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm seeing it.
If you're driving past that all of a sudden, I wasn't expecting it. It's like, whoa, weird building.
It looks like a building where they've got rockets and maybe alien spacecraft in there.
Yeah, that's what my thinking was.
So yeah, and they've got lots of, Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin. There's a handful of other space companies, but they are like the undisputed big dog in like private space shit. And the pitch that comes through for the whole thing is like, we're making reusable rockets. We're making it relatively cheap to do launches to do raw launches. We've established that baseline, which means this future world of orbital compute and all the rest of it, the moat is crazy. We've built this thing that can't be beaten. And also, and while they talk about orbital compute, which again, data centers in space is not really a proven concept yet, but it's something they're betting on heavily. They also have built out a whole bunch of, terrestrial compute in the form of like the XAI Colossus things, which are now being, including Colossus 2, are now being leased to Anthropic, basically.
Yeah, so the thinking here is like, as you say, you kind of have to assume that XAI is going to be the biggest AI company on the planet, like bigger than OpenAI, bigger than Anthropic, bigger than Google, because, yes, of this competitive advantage of having the AI data centers, V's like the friggin' rockets. So the thinking with the AI data centers in space, and we've talked about this before, is basically like what you have to believe is that the thirst for compute is almost infinite, which is true. Like I would say that it's like we want more compute. Everyone wants more compute. I think that's okay. Let me steal, man.
You still, it's
Does everyone not want more compute? Maybe they're not the Pope. The Pope doesn't want more compute.
He's made it pretty clear he doesn't want any. He's against it. No compute for me.
But more compute is good.
He does wear an Apple Watch.
Well, that's edge compute. Okay, so not the Pope. More compute. We need more compute because with more compute, we can solve everything. We can run the world, luxury, gay, space, communism, etc. Yep. With infinite energy and infinite compute, we can do anything. We can just set the AI to go off and everything will be brilliant. Solve all disease, solve all our problems. You will own nothing and you'll be happy, etc. Now, A, people are mad at data centers down here as it is. B, there's not really, it's complicated. Building data centers on Earth is complicated. It comes with a bunch of annoying issues, such as humans living on Earth, in and around these things, etc. We should probably do a whole episode about data centers and the backlash to data centers.
The lunch episode, yeah.
And that vibe right now, that increasing vibe, which, by the way, has nothing to do with our lunch.
No, data centers have nothing to do with our lunch. This shocks me.
No. We specifically, it was an anti-AI. Like, why would data centers, rooms full of computers, had data centers forever?
This is crazy. All right. No, that's all good.
That's fair enough, mate. That's the letter of the law. It was about AI, not about data centers. Otherwise, you could argue that climate change is people who are anti-climate change is going to satisfy your bet because,
No, all right. I'm magnanimous enough to say that's not included.
Ludicrous. Anyway, data centers are difficult on Earth is the thesis, and expensive on Earth. And so, therefore, where's there heaps of space? I'm asking you the question.
Yeah, up in space.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Up in space.
It was the first thing that people noticed about it. They were like, "Fuck, there's heaps of room up there." Space. What about we call it that?
That's right. There's heaps of space up there. So, in the future, in order to get to infinite compute, we fill the space with computers.
Fill space with computers,
and as well as abundant energy from solar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, we've kind of talked about data centers.
And which company has the rockets to do it? Which company has the rockets to do it? It's us.
Yes.
This is the flywheel I was talking about. This is what they're selling to the public markets, basically.
Exactly. So it's okay, cast your mind forward 10 years, 15 years. We will need infinite compute. We are the only company that will be able to provide infinite compute. Our models are the only ones who are going to, we'll at least have this leverage to use our own compute. Of course, we'll sell it to other people like we're doing now with Anthropic because not enough people are using XAI. But that's the vision. That's why it's therefore, we're going to be making $25 trillion.
Yeah.
That's kind of the sell.
I agree.
Again, if you look in the risk column, it's no one has put a data center in space yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, there's a section labeled technology risk, where it's basically several initiatives: orbital AI compute, AI chips at scale, lunar economy, human augmentation, moon and Mars transport involve unproven technologies that may not yet exist in commercially viable form. Yes. Now, look, it's I will grant very smart people do seem to think that data, and I say data centers in space, it's obviously not a building floating around in space, although that would be cool. It's like a satellite with some chips on it or whatever. That, yes, and we've talked about all of the issues with that before, once they break, they're broken. How do you get the data back to Earth? What's going on there? There's a bunch of things but again, I'm not an expert in that field. People seem to think that there's something there. There is something there. I'm certainly not an expert, but I've read a lot of posts on both sides of the issue from people who probably don't know a whole lot more than I do, but they certainly speak very confidently.
Yeah, but point being, I'm not going to judge on whether we'll be able to get some graphics cards in space that are self-powering with the sun or not. Yeah, maybe not. Color me a little skeptical, but smart people seem to think that there is some commercial viability there in some future, maybe in 10, 15 years, whatever, down the track. where you completely lose me is colonizing Mars and fucking commercializing lunar exploration. Like, I just cannot,
No,
for the life of me, understand.
I mean, yes, Elon clearly believes in this stuff. Like, I don't think that he's saying that to defraud people, but it's also like you have, as you've described, this sort of like coherent near-term AI-ish global compute / rocket launch / satellite internet story where you go, okay, they want to become the base layer of like what they're predicting is like the next layer of global connectivity or whatever. Get that. That makes sense. It involves a few logical leaps in like how they're going to get there and the technology, but like it's a sound story and like the building blocks are there. Got it. But like the rest of it, the sci-fi shit, we're going to Mars, we're all going to live on Mars, we're going to have a city with millions.
And he has like bonuses tied to a colony on Mars by 2035.
Totally.
And shit like that, right? Like, this is a large
They
part
still
of it.
talk about this a lot. It's throughout the S1, they talk about it. And obviously it's something they clearly, it's on the roadmap. It's in the fucking Trello document. It's in the, there's a Jira ticket for it.
The backlog?
Yeah. Just seeing that date crawl closer.
Nice to have. It's a nice to have.
Yeah. It's clearly still part of the important pitch for, I imagine, retail. Like the retail people who are like, oh, he's going to Mars, bro. And once he gets to Mars, there's got to be, have you heard there's like asteroids out there that are made of gold, bro?
Made of gold. Yeah.
The asteroids are made of gold, bro.
Have you seen the price of gold?
Mate, there's got to be like a trillion tons of it. Like, mate, do the math times it, bro. Yeah. I mean, it's not entirely a dump on retail strategy, but clearly they got to still talk about it, even though they now have a more sophisticated pitch, which, by it or not, at least kind of makes sense in a more near-term way. Then, yeah, we are building a city with 1 million people on Mars, which, I don't know, maybe, but I'm certainly not making any public market bets on that basis.
Will there be 1 million person colony on Mars by 2035 or 2040? You're taking the unders on that. You're saying
I'm
no.
saying no.
I might just join you on that.
Yeah. Okay. Damn. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like 12 years ago, what are we in? We're in big 2026. The big 2026. So 12 years ago, 2014.
Yep.
Are we accelerating fast enough for there to be 1 million people on Mars?
I don't know.
I'm going to say no again.
The other part of this that's it's probably worth mentioning as well is that, and we kind of alluded to it before, but this is an exciting way for Elon Musk. This is like his big final magician's reveal when he takes all the shitty fucking debt obligations from X and XAI and bundles them up and slaps them underneath a company that is going to sell for substantially more, like, so worth more than the sum of its parts to pay off, for example, the Twitter acquisition for $44 billion, which was dumb when he did it.
Yeah, those people who like backed him on that are going to come out ahead.
Yes.
You know?
So if you are looking for a world which is a just world, in which, people get their comeuppance, and, he is finally laid low for buying your favorite website and ruining it, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. This IPO
ain't
going to resolve that situation in a big way.
Yeah. Anyone who backed Elon on that ludicrous deal got made, which is part of the Elon magic, right? It's like VCs like never bet against Elon. Like, he will make you money.
Yeah.
He'll make you money. If you invest in Elon, he will make sure that he makes you money. And he has. Even on like the worst deal imaginable, which was the deal he tried to back out of buying Twitter, the people who backed him on that after he literally was like, I'm going to sue to try and get out of this. Like, I don't want to buy you. People still were like, yeah, that was such a stupid price that you offered, but we're still going to give you money because this is what he does. In the end of the day, they're going to have made cash out of it. Other than the banks that sold the debt on at like 60 cents on the dollar.
Yeah. So he took all this shitty debt and rolled it up into like this bridge loan for SpaceX, which is going to get paid off by the IPO, which, some people are saying he's basically dumping all of his previously stupid moves onto retail or onto public markets. And I guess it kind of is like that. It kind of is like that, but also...
Well, but yes and no. Well, the other massive part of the story that people are talking about is the fact that the float, as in the actual amount of shares that are available to be purchased, is about 4% of the actual company. So it's not like this is not like they're raising $1.7 trillion.
No.
Only 4% of the actual
Yep.
company will be available to be bought on the stock market, which is like a pretty small amount.
Very small.
And so the criticism there, which I think is fair enough, is that if people are hyped by it, there's not that many shares to buy, which artificially inflates the price, which values the other 96%, which is not public, and a lot of it is owned by Elon himself, at whatever that public market price is. Had all of that been floated on the stock market, would the demand be so much higher that the valuation is pushed up? Probably not. Regardless, that's what's happening. 4% is being floated. That will help, especially with retail. Like retail, like that's enough for retail to get involved and really like boost the price. And what that will amount to, though, if it floats at 1.7 and stays at that, which I think it will, by the way, I think that it'll probably friggin' go up. Who knows? That means that Elon Musk himself will be worth $1 trillion.
He will.
Is this not correct?
I believe that's correct. Yeah, he will.
He'll be our first trillionaire on paper.
Again, for the people who are hoping for some sort of just desserts for Mr. Musk for all his silly behavior over the past few years, he probably, yeah. I think the poly market, I was looking at this the other day on him being worth $1 trillion by X date. I don't know what the date was, but I assume it's by the end of this year or something. Was looking pretty good. Like 80-something%, I think. Which, there you go, interesting. And yes, as you suggested, he's got absolute super voting control of this public entity on the other side of this IPO. It'll be the Musk show. This is Musk Inc.
Yeah, the governance is a complete mess.
Yeah,
exactly. He can do whatever he wants. And I know there was a bunch of talk. It's also true that the index funds who basically are obliged to passively purchase, the top 500 on the S&P 500, for example. Or the NASDAQ, whatever, they are obliged to purchase the top businesses. They had a bunch of rules that they've waived with regards to floats had to be higher.
Yep.
They had to be on the market for a certain amount of time, this, that, and the other. That's all been waived so that these index funds can get a piece of not just SpaceX, but also OpenAI, Anthropic when they go public. I know people are pointing to this as being oh, this is I think it is a bit annoying and shady to a certain extent, but also people are saying it's like a conspiracy to super boost the share price because there's only 4% float, blah, blah, blah. That's not accurate. They will buy a weighted percentage of SpaceX. But yeah, they have changed the rules effectively to acquiesce to get a piece of these stocks early, which is what it is.
I agree. The piece that I don't get on the AI side, look, everyone can basically agree that at this moment right now, XAI and Grok, they've got a lot of compute that they're currently leasing to Anthropic. They're training their new models. They're focusing on coding, which I'll talk about in a sec. But everyone can agree that the models themselves are a flop. They're not really considered frontier. They're good in some.
They're not in the game.
They're not in the game. They're okay for real-time search and stuff using X data. But if that's something that you really want for some specific thing that you're doing, but they're generally not in the game. Part of this S1 and part of the stuff that's going on around is this weird deal they've done with Cursor, which is the AI coding startup, which we talked about a few weeks ago. They signed this compute and option agreement where SpaceX might acquire Cursor for $60 billion of stock, or if they walk away, they pay them $9 billion of termination fees and deferred services fees or whatever. So basically a $10 billion penalty for not buying a company. But this is obviously a bet on coding, in the same way that everyone else has made this bet. They've obviously, in Elon Musk.
Which is the correct bet.
Correct, yeah. Everyone is doing it. They think coding's the way to go. But it's this suggests they want to be in the game. They're already talking about the fact they're using Cursor data to train. Because this was one of the big things. Once the OpenAI Codex and Claude Code and Google Anti-Gravity, and once you have people using these platforms to make stuff, that's just a fountain of data that goes back into you to train your next LLM to get even better at coding. So if you don't have that, you will never catch up. So they obviously needed it, and that's what they're doing with Cursor. But I'm just not set, are they trying to be an infrastructure play, which is kind of what they're doing on the one hand, and what this S1 is like?
I think at the end of the day, that is what they are, right? Yeah. They're not saying that. As I said, in the S1, it's most of the revenue comes from enterprise AI usage, which i.e. being the Claude for enterprise, which is not, as in the future, as in proposed total addressable market, whatever. That's most of it. And as you say, Grok is not in the ball game there. There's a lot of kind of question mark. Grok becomes the biggest one in the world due to compute. But what it actually sounds like to me is, and this is the story of kind of everything at the moment, is it's a data center play. It's like, because of satellites, we will be the biggest data center in the world.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think the actual, like, if you scrap out the AI play, it's like, yeah, they're an infrastructure data center kind of play.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So it makes me wonder why they're also still focusing on, like, and Elon still talks about, like, we're going to catch up, and at one point Grok will be the number one. And maybe this is just like a secondary bet that, like, we still think that compute is the reason that whoever the winner is will win. Like, if they have the most compute, they win, and their model becomes the best because of training or whatever. And so it's like, because we're doing all that, it's all going to pay off in the next however many years. And one day, you know, even you haters will be forced to use Grok 'cause it'll be so unbelievably smart. Maybe. But it's like, it just sticks out because it's like,
I mean, don't say it. I don't see it at all.
It seems like a weird sticking out bit with all the cursor shit and whatever. But anyway, good on them.
No one would even have heard of Grok other than like our audience and like terminally online people. Like, how many CTOs at, you know, mid-size organizations have heard of Grok as a coding tool?
Well, we do.
Like, more people have heard of DeepSeek.
I agree with you.
Even if you cut out the Chinese, like, you know.
I know we had that joke where it was like, imagine being a CTO being like, who am I going to sign up for? Who am I going to hitch my wagon to at my Fortune 500 company? Do I buy something through the Microsoft tools? Do I go with Google Gemini? Everyone's talking about Claude, and that we've never been a customer of them, but they're the hottest startup in the world.
No, but I guess the Pentagon uses them, so you know, maybe we should consider this Claude company. Or
do we go to this weird vanity thing which makes mostly anime pornography
that everyone says is shit?
That everyone says is shit and racist? This isn't really a risk.
Anyway, $25 trillion addressable market.
Yeah. One thing I want to call back to before maybe we bounce on over and talk to our premium subs about the enhanced games. You reminded me when you were talking about data centers and data centers on Earth being difficult to build and whatever. And we'll probably do an episode about this, as you say, all the current weirdness around it. But I was at some drinks last week talking to a bunch of like people in strategy and corporate comms and whatever. And someone was like asking me about the data center business and like these companies like Firmus and Sharon AI and all these like these neo cloud businesses in Australia, which are all popping up and like looking to list on the ASX. And they were like confused. They were like, why are all these people associated with it? Like, kind of their vibe is scummy in a way that you don't, not like Sam Altman scummy or Mark Zuckerberg scummy, but like proper Australian weird huckster scummy, like
criminal adjacent, if not have previously been indicted.
Yeah, exactly. So that, I mean, the one there is Oliver Curtis, who's the boss of Firmus. Roxy Jasenko's husband spent time in jail for insider trading, but it's not just him. There's a whole bunch of people around there, and I was like, dude, it's because data centers
it's crypto.
It's not, well, it's crypto adjacent, but B,
it's crypto and property.
Yeah, it's crypto and property
together.
It's
Come
property.
on.
I was like, you like to succeed in being like a hyper growth data center business, you don't even know shit about technology. Your entire job is being like a sales guy who can like get chips, like, you know, speak to NVIDIA and do a great deck.
Get chips and permits.
Exactly. Strong arm some local councils and state governments for permits and just be like a man about town. I'll hook that up. I'll get the utilities hooked up, bro. Like that kind of shit.
Yes, 100%. Like if you want to be the boss of those companies, that's basically, you're the CEO, that is your main job. There is some talent to, you know, advanced computation at scale, like chaining together all these things. There are some engineering challenges.
Yeah, you can hire those people.
You can hire those people. Those boffin PhDs, whatever, you hire. But yes, you're right. Like to like be a real weapon in the space as a CEO. Yeah, you're doing property deals, some council shenanigans, and then somehow speaking to someone in Singapore who's getting something through, you know, this, that, the other.
You're spinning a lot of plates. You're spinning a shitload of plates.
You're on your phone a fair bit. You're firing off typos in like one sentence long emails
and you're
fair
also
bit.
like hyper leveraged, and like at every
Yes.
moment you're like, the next thing I do has got to pay off the last thing I did, or I'm going to jail again. Like that's like the data setting. My theory, as well, I mean, I say theory, but I think it's just literally true, is that like we've got this big hype economy wide thing going on where like it is a flashing fucking lighthouse beacon for people who like to make money or like imagine themselves as they want to make money. Except unfortunately, unlike a lot of these booms and hypes, it's actually insanely technical. And to be at the top of the game, you actually kind of have to be a genius, like a maths genius, and like
Yeah,
but
true.
like down the bottom, like the baseline infrastructure shit, everyone there's always guys who are like, "Go west, young man. I'm gonna fucking get in on this," and that's the layer. That's
Yeah,
100% the
exactly.
layer you do.
The frontier. But this would be another factor in why a lot of like big brains who are more the like PhD types or whatever are like, we got to get these fucking things off Earth property and we got to get them in space so we do not have to deal with this shit.
Exactly, and like so it means everyone in the chain is smart and socially like me. We don't need these fucking freaks. Like, there's no permits to deal with in space. It's just a bunch of like really smart guys in short sleeve business shirts who work on rockets. So, if you want to hear us talk about the enhanced games, which is vaguely tech adjacent because Peter Thiel is associated with it. So, there you go. That makes it a down around story, which is the Olympics for roided up freaks that aired this week. We're going to be talking about the other side of the paywall. So, head and check out our new website. We've got a new website for you to look at, downround.net. You can sign up for Down Around Premium, 1 extra episode every week, 2 total. What a deal. We'll see you on the other side.